Hello, everyone. This is Patricio Utz. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Abstract. So here we're at with the lovely, incredible Mohammed Mo Hayat, who's one of my awesome co-founders and CTO at Abstract. So this time around, we're going to talk less about our Abstract platform and more about how AI is transforming the government affairs space and really the space more broadly around policy and anything having to do with government data. And Mo has been spearheading a lot of the work that we've been doing here at Abstract around building our incredible product, but also leading out research in the AI space. So today we're going to have a great fun little chat here about what it is that we're actually doing with AI. What is AI when it comes down to government affairs and government data, and what are the things that we're starting to see not only in our current space but other spaces as well, and where we're heading with Abstract to make your work easier but also uncover things you may be completely overlooking. So Mo, if you want to start with a quick introduction and what you do here at Abstract.
For sure. Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. As Pat mentioned, my name is Mohammed or Mo. I'm one of the three co-founders alongside Pat and Matthew, and I am the CTO. So I am in charge of a team of amazing human beings that are responsible for researching, building, and maintaining the system that you use. So it's been a fun job so far.
Fun is definitely an underrated description.
Oh
I
yeah.
would say roller coaster. Fun, terrifying roller coaster.
It's uh it's thrilling with a lot of good experiences and lessons learned at the end, but it's been awesome.
100%. So starting off Mo with AI, like how would you describe AI as it pertains to the work that we're doing?
Mhm.
I know you were bringing up some analogies to me before, but if you can give us like quick little crash course in terms of what's been going on in this space and why this has been blowing up recently.
Yeah, so I mean, before kind of diving into the specific use cases and everything, I think there's a lot of context explaining and just general 1,000 foot view explaining that we should be doing because what a majority of AI looks like to people who might not be working with technology on a daily basis is it's something that's going to come and replace your job, and it's going to be our new kings and our new overlords, and it's just very scary terms that you see out there. But in reality, AI is a tool. It's a very helpful tool. Now, to put it into an actual definition, the term AI, artificial intelligence, is a very self-explanatory term. We're biological intelligence, we're natural and just a part of nature, and artificial intelligence is trying to replicate that as closely as possible in machines. So, what AI, if you boil it down to the simplest terms, what AI is most useful for is prediction. It's prediction and generation. So, say that you're on Abstract, for example, and you tag a bill within the abstract system, and this is a bit of a sneak peek, but there's a certain list of steps that happen within our servers that are to you displayed as tagging a bill. So when you tag a bill, our servers say, okay, this customer has tagged this bill, so let's link it so that if someone searches for a tag, or if I search for a tag or I export a report or a bill list based off of tags, that's what like these are the bills that should be showing up. So it's the most uh primitive kind of implementation of intelligence in a machine. It's very clear steps that you define. With AI, what the use case actually looks like is I take a model, and a model is basically a data storage structure, is the simplest way to
Like the
think of it.
map, right? It's supposed to
Yeah,
emulate the brain. Yeah.
pretty much. So it's a brand new brain, digital brain that you kind of put in front of you. and you just say, here's an entire history of bills that I've tagged. So for bill number one, I tagged it like this. Bill number two, I tagged it like this. And you go through hundreds or thousands of bills. And then the model or the brain basically goes, okay, so I think I have a sense of what this all looks like. So you put it up on a server and you go, hey, here's a bill. What should I tag it? And what AI is basically boiled down to is it goes, okay, so based off of what I've seen, I think that this bill should be tagged with these following values or these following options. And it's to the like to us basically the humans seeing it, this could be a prediction or a suggestion. So if you're using a lot of products that have recommendation engines or any sort of here's things that we think you might like, that's basically what's happening. And then there's also that part of it that gets repackaged as generation. So rather than saying here's a list of bills that I've tagged, if you say if you take a model and basically train it on every single written thing in the internet since the beginning of time, then you go, here's a word or here's a question. What can I complete that question with? Or what can I finish this prompt with? And that's how you have ChatGPT. It's basically an iterative process of here are the words I'm given based off of what I've seen on the internet. I think the next word that makes the most sense is this one. And then you take that body of text and you repeat it over and over again until you see that generation piece go on. So yeah, it's basically a very, computationally intensive way of prediction and generation that serves as a really powerful tool to do our jobs.
And I would say, one of the key reasons why it's blown up in the last sort of, 6, 12, 18 months is because we've essentially we've had the core sort of models, right? The algorithms, the math, right, needed to actually do all this, but we didn't have the computing power. We didn't have the processors and computers that were essentially powerful enough to process all this data iterations. So, you know, talking to people in the space, that was one of the core reasons why this was suddenly possible. And also storage, right? Being able to store all the data necessary from, literally the history of the internet to then train all this math, all these algorithms on. Would you say, were there any other key things that sort of allowed this to happen recently?
I mean, I think it's with most of it kind of follows the same footsteps of the recent technological advancements, which is accessibility, really. And I think you touched on it well, which is, a couple of years ago, if say Abstract wanted to do anything AI related, it would have been millions of dollars and tons of researchers and research departments just looking at ways to build things from scratch. As opposed to now, we have, at our expense, things that cost tens of millions of dollars to put together. And, some of the brightest minds in the field have put hours into researching and building this. And we are presented with a tool that we can use. And once you cut down the barrier of entry for something like AI in this way, the possibilities are really endless. So from the engineer's perspective, I know my team and I have been going crazy with like how can we use this and what can we do. So
Yeah, and I would say a great analogy. So I'm a photographer, and back in the day, you had to spend. I mean, we're talking thousands of dollars to, film any sort of 30-minute plus, uh, short, or let alone if you want to film a feature like a long form video. It was very expensive, right, to do it right, because you had to pay for the film. Then they had the advent of DSLRs, which you can essentially get cinematic footage for pretty much nothing, right? Like the cost relative to what it costs to actually pay for film was ridiculous. And now uh we're starting to see tons of movies actually being just shot on an iPhone, which is incredible. Granted, this is still not fully there, but we're getting super close. And so given that accessible increasing accessibility to that technology has allowed a lot more filmmakers to create a lot more stories and share those stories, and I feel that the same is happening with AI here. And the story that we're doing, as an analogy, is the story of government affairs. So as a concrete sort of example here, uh we started selling and serving trade associations, lobbying firms, nonprofits, right? So we're also providing services to corporate government affairs, corporate legal, really anyone who's impacted or has an interest in government policy. So how give me a sort of concrete example of how AI can be used by people in the sort of government affairs space, and then we can touch on the corporate and even the nonprofit side. So how for somebody that is tracking bills for a company or for a nonprofit, how can they use AI on Abstract?
Yeah, so there is, the name of the game, after, chatting with a lot of lobbyists, building a product for them and understanding truly what their workflows are, and not just lobbyists, of course, but trade associations, nonprofits, and many other types of organizations that track legislation. Uh, we know that the name of the game is cutting through a lot of noise to find the signal of what your client actually cares about. So, this past half of the session, 2023, we've seen over 3,000 bills be introduced, about a variety of topics. The topics and subjects of each of those bills were basically endless. But we know for a fact that if you are a firm or organization that represents a client, that client might actually care about, 100 or 50 or maybe 10 of those bills. So the pressure is on you to actually find those bills that might pose anywhere from a small to an existential threat to your client.
Mm.
Um, and it's right now, it's a very big process of digging through all those bills that come out. I mean, we all know the nightmare of the bill introduction deadline when you see 500 to 700 bills come out in one night. Um, and where AI comes in specifically is you have the capabilities of a machine with the eyes of a human, basically. So what I mean by that is, machines can basically process information at speeds orders of magnitude greater than us. It can read a book in milliseconds. Um, so going through something that fast while also having the human kind of intelligence slash awareness piece of this bill might be of interest, this bill might not be of interest, and just going through that at that speed is something that can really cut down a lot of hours of grunt work that happens on the government affairs side. Now to answer the second part of your question about what that's like using Abstract, or like how that's kind of mirrored in Abstract, our R&D initiatives are obviously brewing with a lot of very exciting things that we're going to have coming out in the future. But what you can do in the meantime is our bill search. So whether it's the keyword searches or all the different filters, such as the gut and amend, the or position stance filter, or pretty much most of the filters have all been somehow put together with the fundamental pieces that would make up a model. So there's some sort of intelligent classification or intelligent labeling and flagging, where if you needed to search for something using the filters that we have, it would basically take you way, way longer than it would just doing it on Abstract. So,
Yeah, that makes total sense. And that concrete example is because of these advancements, you're actually able to search for any organization, and within a couple of clicks, instantly see, hey, what are all the bills, the government bills that that organization opposes or supports, right? And then soon, I don't want to put too much pressure on the engineering team here, but very soon we're going to have the ability to essentially generate letters of opposition and support. So this is a perfect example of a task that takes a long time to complete. And now, with the generative part of advancements in AI, we're actually able to generate versions and drafts of position letters so that you're saving time, but you're also even crafting more effective copy. And Mo, transitioning over to what you're seeing on the corporate side, uh, how do you think this is gonna change what they do on the corporate end, where these corporate lobbyists and legal teams are receiving bills from all these different trade associations and lobbyists? How can AI help distill information from them and help them be more effective?
Yeah, so it's actually a very, you know, it might be a little counterintuitive, the answer to this, but it's the same model that we see in Sacramento, just remodeled or repackaged for what we see in enterprises or corporations, where the name of the game, as I mentioned, for lobbyists is you have 3,000 bills. A fraction of that are actually going to matter to your clients. Um, Now, when you shift that perspective downstream to now the data source is the trade association or lobbying firm, and then the receiving end is the actual corporation or the enterprise, the the name of the game is still data ingestion. So you're getting things from someone, and it's a lot of processing that happens. So a lobbying firm gets things from the legislature and sees what's going to actually affect the corporation or their client. um, the corporation gets these bills from the lobbyist, and it's a lot of work into, okay, what does this actually mean for a business? Does this mean that we're going to need to, overhaul our compliance? Does this mean that we need to cut products or build new products, or are we allowed to expand to a market or a new country or a state? um, all of these questions right now are answered in painstakingly long emails, long threads, tons of documents, and tons of people looped in, where it is just a very big process of making sense of the bill. Now, if you replace that grunt work of you know uh circular infinite loop communication and just seeing what making sense of the bill looks like, and you replace it with a model that's been trained on not only your business interests, but additionally everything that's coming out of every single legislature, or of only the California legislature, as well as pretty much the entire internet's worth of context for what this bill means and what it could do. You basically take a weeks or months long discovery and evaluation process, and you turn it into a chat that you can have. So what you're basically doing is you're taking, a Superman out of this world policy expert, hiring him or them, and then sitting them down and going, here's everything our business stands for. Here's everything that's coming out that our lobbying firms or trade associations are flagging for us. What does this mean for us, and what do we need to do about it? And doing that in a chat is obviously much more easier, but it's also a truly a game changer, because it's a massive it's a massive step in the right direction, because your resources as a corporation or enterprise are now allocated to doing the things that matter, instead of just figuring out, okay, what does this bill mean? What's it going to do? So that part of your job has been streamlined.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is it's volume, right? It's like
Hmm.
there's so much of volume, so many regulations, so many bills are trying to change the current codes and laws, and that's where I really think AI is going to shine. I think that's what we're seeing uh, a ton of here at Abstract, and with that, I think other people are seeing this as well with court dockets and other sorts of data types. So, we have a couple minutes here for last part of this webinar. Uh, can you tell me a little bit about Trellis and what we're doing with other CTOs and other engineers in this community? Why are you excited about this? Why should people be excited about what we're developing here?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's an answer that would basically take a good day and a half to answer fully, but
The high level, the high
uh
level.
but uh but yeah, I mean, the interesting part is from the engineering and from the technical perspective, um there's very little technical attention that's being paid to government affairs, to lobbying, to making sense of and processing government data. So when AI came along and that accessibility uh obstacle was passed in the past year or two, um there were a lot of different communities that immediately started spinning up their versions of models that are specific to industries. So the fintech financial technology community started spinning up models that can compete with Bloomberg, and then you have the same thing happening across e-commerce, healthcare, logistics, and just the list goes on. When it comes to government affairs, um, there there's been obviously a couple of siloed projects spun up here and there, but with when you zoom out of government affairs and you look at government affairs and legal tech, we were chatting with the lovely people over at Trellis, and our main realization was there's not much of a community and there's not much of attention or resources or information about how can we use these newly accessible LLMs into our products and our, how can we use these to benefit everyone using our services. So what we ended up doing was a collaboration and research or a partnership of sorts where um we and up to, I want to say, 9 or 10 other organizations at this point are putting together a shared knowledge base for working with AI and legal data and government data, and really understanding what those formats are, where you get them from, so that if anyone wants to innovate in this field, um it's a resource that's available the same way it's available in the fintech community and prop tech and so on and so forth. So
So if I have no idea how these communities work, no, I'm not a developer. I don't know any. Is this is this like joining a library or like explain like what's a good analogy outside of tech
I would say it's
for
a
how these
fast.
communities work? Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I would say it's a fast-paced book club. We don't go through books, so we don't really take that long, but it's articles, it's documentation, and it's conversations that we have where we're basically like, here's the topic of today. The topic of today is how can we take legislation and use it to train a model? Now there's a step one, a step two, a step three, and walking through that with people in your industry with a technical background is, miles better than trying to go through it alone. And it just results in more experience, closer relationships, a tighter community, and at the end of it, an actual product and a service that people can use. So
So is it like a book club that has a combination of people that just like reading books, authors, uh sort of professional reviewers and PhDs? Is that and then the outcome is they write like a chapter of the book?
yeah, I mean, that those people like that would be amazing, obviously, but not really. I mean, I would say a good amount of the people in our collaboration that we've done with Trellis have just been people who've seen, have come across a post of something that someone did with AI and they were like, wow, this is amazing. I have we've been chatting with people who've been working in the Capitol for a while now, and they saw Chat GPT and what it could do, and they came to the conclusion of I'd love to do something like this, but who can I talk to? Like, where do I get started? And this community is actually the perfect starting point because, you know, we have experts, but we have people who are just getting started as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Enthusiasts, professional.
Enthusiasts.
I
Yeah,
like it.
absolutely.
And we also do have a couple of PhDs as well, because
Right.
you always gotta have a PhD when it comes to any of this. So,
Yeah.
what we're coming to time here, and I want to ask you one last
Mhm.
question, which is a question I like to ask of all the people that are part of our team. Our mission is to increase government transparency. Our vision is to essentially help foster a more educated and equitable society through the use of technology and AI, right? That's what we want to abstract complex documents, complex information, and use that to educate people and help make a more equitable society. So, what keeps you going every day? Why do you wake up and keep working on this? What are you most excited for in the future? And this can be the
So
far-reaching future. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's the one thing that keeps me going as a person in the position that I'm in right now is, we the brightest minds this was a quote, and I don't know where it was from, but it went something along the lines of the brightest minds of our generation are trying to get people to click on ads. you know
Yeah.
so it's there's serious talent out there that's being drawn towards industries where, they're drawn towards industries that are very important, obviously, whether it's the social media or finance or insurance or healthcare. But with all those different industries, there's one specific thing that serves as the backbone for them, and that's a very clear regulatory framework
Mm,
that gets put together with codes, with legislation, and obviously, in our society at the very top is the government, which says or defines the rules that we use to live our lives in different cities, states, countries. Um, so the amount of tech attention to governments and to government data is something that just keeps me up at night, because what I would like to do and the problems that I like to solve is, if we took that if we took that Apple mentality, or if we took that Stripe, Airbnb mentality, and we put it towards making government data accessible and understandable, and we built a team around that, how far would we go? And how much can we do for really making, like, really kind of decrypting the legislative process, not only for people whose jobs it is to look at legislation day in and day out, but additionally for the everyday person, so that they can understand what their legislators doing in Congress or in their legislature. And I'd like to say that we're heading in the right direction. I mean, the conversations I've had with my team have been amazing, and we have a really, really awesome team. And I'm just, every day I wake up and I'm just excited to keep building, keep adding to the team, and just keep growing, really.
awesome. No, I can't agree more. And uh, I would say we're lucky to have you leading out the engineering side of things here at Abstract. So, with that, thank you, Mo, for taking the time to sit down and talk about these topics. For not only people that work in the government affairs space, but really anyone interested in the intersection of AI, government, and just policy in general. And with that, we're going to be hosting another webinar soon. We also have a lot of big changes coming to our website and also our product. We're really shifting a lot of things much quicker towards being powered with the tools that Mo mentioned, so that people's workflows can be more efficient. People can uncover things that may present a risk or an opportunity to the organization, and overall, really excited about what's coming over the next couple of months, which unfortunately I cannot talk about publicly here just yet. If not, I think Mo would come running after me. So.
No,
Uh,
I'd say that's the worst part of the job, just not being able to share stuff. But you'll see those on the product soon, is what I'll say, and it'll be very, very exciting.
100%. So, with that, really appreciate y'all for taking time to listen to our webinar here. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us via email or LinkedIn. You can check us out at www.abstract.us. Again, it's just abstract.us, like the abstract art. And stay tuned for our next webinar. So really appreciate y'all.